Hi, I'm Zane Beyond Words, and today's message and all of today's messages are going to be about the African American father. This particular message is to dispel the litany of myths about African American fathering. The first thing that I would like to address is that African American fathers are absent. For cultural reasons, for systemic reasons, and I won't make excuses for those fathers who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But for cultural reasons, for some systemic reasons, for dysfunctional family reasons, the African American father has a different or a unique fathering experience than any other male on the planet. One thing we can say is, based on my extensive research, and I have done so on the graduate level, is that African American fathers, through improvisational fathering, father more children than any other father on the planet. They will step in and father the children that were procreated in previous relationships with women who made poor choices in the fathers that they selected for their biological children. African American men oftentimes take improvisational fathering as part of the territory, that it comes with the territory. And they do so oftentimes expecting nothing in return. I've heard, and through my extensive research and interviewing fathers who have paid for weddings, graduations, raised children without the benefits of being recognized as that father, oftentimes without being allowed to discipline those children or have a role in major decision making regarding the futures of those children. So, to dispel this myth, let's make it very clear. African American fathers, through improvisational fathering, and you young women know what that means, they step up more than any other race of men on this planet. The other myth is that African American fathers do not want to father. On a whole, that's not true. There are, again, systemic issues that prevent African American fathers from fathering. There are dysfunctional mothers that prevent African American men from fathering. So to say and group all African American men into this bowl, so to speak, this fishbowl, to be scrutinized as something that is less than what's expected of a effective father is very unfair. I think we really have to address this because around this time of year, no other race of people exploit this social ill within their communities the way the African American community does this. And it is getting tired. While I could easily say that the most pain that has ever been brought to me came from the African American male in one way or the other, I can also say that I had never, ever, ever felt more protected and shielded by the African American male. And for that, I will always have a dedication and commitment to the African American male, for I know he is my reflection. And when we raise particularly our daughters in a way in which they have no regard for the role of the African American father in their lives, we are doing a disservice to our community, and we are continuing to contribute to the social ills that plague our communities. So let me reinforce this about the African American male. African American males do homework with their children. African American males show up for their children, be it at graduations, be it when I take my son to karate or he's dropped off to karate with other males from other cultures. The fathers are there. Yes, I do see some voids in some young men's lives that I work with, but let's be very clear. Equally as much, there are African American missing females, in that African American females they somewhat get a pass because oftentimes grandmother has stepped up and has been rearing the children that they have left on grandma. And so this kind of exempts the African American female from being the quote unquote deadbeat mom. We have to be very careful of the language that we use when we generalize groups of people within our community, because we perpetuate an image that is very destructive of us globally. We must be very clear. As an educator, as a mentor of many children, I get the aftermath of the dysfunctional family structures. And you can best believe I've met more grandmothers, or equally as many grandmothers, as I have mothers. So grandmas are actually filling in for the dysfunctional mothers. So for some of these females or women who would like to berate the image of the African American male, please understand this. That male is half of your child. And the more you berate that male in front of that child, or deny that male a healthy relationship, or that female a healthy relationship with their father, you are creating a broader problem in this community. We have to stop this. We have to stop this. So please note that there are some contributing factors to why many African American males are denied their right to father. And the right to father is always going to be in place upon procreation. Unless that father is a criminal and is doing something that is detrimental to the growth and development of that child, the father has a right to father. That goes beyond any personal issues you may have with that father. That goes beyond any financial obligations, because making pragmatic provisions for young people or for children is not the only aspect of fathering. There comes a spiritual contribution that fathers have to make to the development of their young people, particularly females. There's a great deal of wisdom that can be shared to this child or your children. And that's not happening because sometimes we are really, really not getting to the point of what's necessary. And what's necessary is that these fathers have to have a right to father, to actually do significant things in that child's lives and play a significant role in that child's life. And when we refuse to set aside our personal issues, our personal pain, and not get counseling for that, then we really are imposing some serious damage upon these children. We're kind of transferring our pain to this child and continuing this cyclical pattern of dysfunction in our family structures, and we have to stop that. I'm praying that at some point when we get into these relationships and we have to learn how to terminate relationships in a healthy way, particularly when we involve children, because at this point it is creating a pattern that I get the aftermath of, and I have to try and fix it or try to bring healing to the young people that come across my desk, young people who I mentor. I get the aftermath of this damage. So before you enter a relationship, you really need to understand the nature of relationships, how to maintain, sustain, and terminate relationships in a healthy way so that our children are not going to be casualties in this process. And it should not be a casualty in this process. I'm praying that at some point we start to look at the African American male as an integral role into the development of our young people, particularly our daughters. We no longer can afford to say that we don't need a man. We can do without, because what I'm seeing is the young women that I am mentoring who are pregnant are already pushing the fathers away. Even though they made this unhealthy choice to try to convert a boy into a man through child rearing, they're already starting to say, I don't need him, forget it. I'm angry because he's not stepping up and helping. What I try to do is redirect them to try to lure those fathers of their children into mentoring programs that can help them and parenting programs that can help them so that we can really try to reverse this cycle that has been presenting a great deal of damage to our community. I pray that we stop this and really start to look at how we reflect ourselves and what's going on in our community in a global capacity. We are globally embarrassing ourselves when we take this time to dehumanize the African American male during this time of year. I'm hoping that the African American female will start to take a long look at herself and understanding that she is suffering perhaps from a missing father herself, and that she needs not to continue this cycle just because she didn't have a father, and allow her children's fathers to play a very, very significant role in their children's lives. If he chooses not to, that's one thing. But if it's for petty reasons, sometimes monetary, and I understand children cannot eat air. I get it. But it's the same token, it is better to have some fathering than no fathering at all. And I know that there are varying situations that can justify why some women make the choices they make. But overall, please start looking at the grand scheme of things. Please start really looking at the overall need of the child. We are made of both testosterone and estrogen. And in order for us to function, we need both. So we cannot say that we don't need a male to raise these children, because if that's the case, we wouldn't have needed the males to make these children or to create these children. So we have to stop with our ego, our pain of the relationship failing, or the disappointment in this man not being what we wanted him to be, and allow him to be the father he needs to be for his children. I'm saying beyond words, I wish you all peace and blessings. And I really pray for healing in the African community. And can we please stop stepping into roles that we will never, ever, ever be able to fulfill? Blessings to you.